Luke Starkiller.
That was the original name.
Was it?
Yeah.
No wonder it sounded familiar.
No, how do you know about that?
Right, Luke Starkiller. Yeah, that's what he called him, and then he changed it like the day of filming. He changed it to Skywalker because he thought Starkiller sounded too violent. That's Michael Aspel. That's Michael Aspel saying Luke Fagbender when he thinks nobody's recording.
Luke Fagbender.
No, Luke Fagbender. That's it. It's undeniable. I'm going to send that up to the boys in the lab, but I'm pretty sure that's Michael Aspel saying Luke Fagbender for comic effect. So this is where it all starts, Fagbendergate. And apparently, doing one kids show that week wasn't enough. 2 days later, he was back onto Blue Peter with the rest of the gang.
Chewie is enormous.
He certainly is. I'm pretty tall, but he absolutely towers over me. And in fact, there are only 3 people this height. That's 7 feet 2 inches, or 2 meters 36 centimeters in the whole of Britain. Is it cold up there?
And watching that hair-raising sequence with me are none other than Princess Leia herself, otherwise Carrie Fisher, and Mark Hamill, alias Luke Skywalker. Mark, welcome back to Blue Peter.
Thank you.
God,
Carrie,
so
welcome to the
beautiful.
programme for the first time.
Thank you. If we may, we'd like to give you a very small present. These are 2 copies of the very first edition of our Blue Peter Book of Gorgeous Scrub. And half the proceeds of the book are going to Cambodia. It's absolutely packed full of recipes, which are favourite recipes of our Blue Peter viewers, but there's one on page 57, which I think you two would find particularly interesting. It's called Star Wars Stew, and it was sent in to us by 8-year-old Elspeth Bruford of Edinburgh, and she says that she and her family called it this because it was invented when they wanted a hot meal waiting for them when they came back from seeing your film Star Wars.
And now's your chance to actually taste them, because we've got some here, Carrie and Mark. I'm assured it's piping hot. It certainly smells delicious.
It's the most wonderful mixture, I assure you. It's a mixture of sausages, baked beans, onions, tomatoes, sweet corn, chips, potatoes, and cheese. I don't think that's a week eat for 3 weeks after you've had one of these.
You could identify the time and place on Earth with pinpoint accuracy just from that recipe.
They don't usually feed us in space. And Mark, you get to eat. We're so busy escaping Darth Vader.
I only get Yoda stew. I've never had Star Wars stew before.
Well, I'll tell you what, I bet when Carrie sent this, I mean, not Carrie, I'm sorry, when Elspeth sent this recipe in, she never dreamt that Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker themselves would be eating it. I'm sure she's absolutely thrilled.
I'm no one.
I wonder if the cast of the new film are going to turn up on TV and get force-fed Star Wars stew. I doubt it somehow.
I was ready to do one thing, but I've got nothing to fight for.
Okay, what have we got here? Darth Vader, the scariest, most evil presence in the galaxy.
Good evening. Now, these are not members of the Musicians' Union. This is Darth Vader, the villain from the film Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back, who is our guest tonight, or at least the man beneath the mask is Dave Prowse. Later on, he'll be telling us about the 7-stone weakling who became an international weightlifting champion. 7-stone weakling. We do have, however, members of the real Musicians' Union on the other side of the lawn there, and because they're in dispute with the BBC, they will be trying to disrupt the programme. Fortunately, we're always in such a state of permanent chaos, I never know when we're being disrupted and when we're not.
And there was disruption. Once Dave Prowse had slipped out of the Vader costume and into a very frilly shirt, the Rebel Alliance from the Musicians' Union caused a disturbance in the force during this interview with, bizarrely, Jackie Collins.
How did you get this amazing part in Star Wars?
Well, I'd had a long history of playing monsters.
Oh, I see.
I was playing Frankensteins, and I started at Casino Royale, then I went to the Horror of Frankenstein, then I went to Vampire Circus, then I finished up with doing a film called Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell. And I think George Lucas had seen these pictures and wanted somebody very big and physical for the part in Star Wars. And when he saw me, I went up to the 20th Century Fox offices and
Carry on as if he can't hear this music.
which I'd like you to consider. And I said, well, what are they? And he said, well, the first one's a character called Chewbacca. And I said, well, what's Chewbacca? And he said, well, it's like a hairy-type gorilla that goes through the film on the side of the goodies. And I thought, well, I don't fancy that very much, George. And I said, what's the other one? And he said, well, the other one's a character called Darth Vader, who's the big villain of the film. And I said, well, no, don't say any more, George. I'll take the villain's part.
They'd just taser those musicians now, wouldn't they?
Exterminate! Exterminate!
This is an episode of The Goodies. Now, apparently the R2-D2 figure was just built by the BBC props department. They've not done a bad job, but I'm not sure this is the sort of thing that will be happening to any of the robots in the future films. And to mash up Star Wars and Doctor Who, well, it's the stuff of geek fantasies, but copyright lawyers' nightmare.
Hello!
And this, is this destroying the magic or enhancing it? C-3PO interacting with Noel Edmonds.
Oh, a human. Well,
Wrong.
Perhaps you can help. Well, excuse me, sir. I wonder if you can assist me.
Well,
I'm looking for my counterpart, R2-D2.
R2-D2? What does he look like?
He's a rather small, round robot with a lot of flashing lights, and he makes loud bleeping noises.
No, I haven't seen him, but you look familiar.
Well, it is quite possible. Actually, I have appeared in 2 rather famous films.
That's it. I thought I'd seen you. You're
C-3PO, human-cyborg relations. Yes, that's right.
Tell us what was the original concept.
Well, the idea really, because it's an American film, they're all going to be Americans in the film, because that's the way we all think, you know. And the original idea was that he was going to be a rather sort of, a bit creepy and from New York, really, so he had this heavy American accent, and he was a little sleazy. Well, I couldn't possibly play anyone like that.
Of course not. What about the movements? Did the movements become dictated by, sort of...
Well, partly, I got a bit of the costume here, which is...
Can you show us how that works? 'Cause it's...
Well, this is the arm. And it's interesting. Here we have what we call a greebly. Now, the definition of a greebly, it's a word we made up, actually. It's something that looks as though it does something, but in fact doesn't. So when I'm wearing this and my hand is here, this looks like a piston that works the arm. In fact, it's the other way. It's the arm that works the piston. Do you get it?
Yes.
Is this too technical for you?
No, I'm following this.
I mean, I'm sure everyone at home's understanding that. I know you have a problem. And the same on the other side. You see there's another greebly there which opens up. And this is, in fact, made of aluminium. And they're all made by hand. The whole costume is actually worth about £150,000.
Really?
Yes.
God,
That's why they don't let me take it home too often.
That was one of the most informative things I've ever seen about Star Wars. That cost 150. That was like 150,000 pounds then. That's amazing.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Must be an old model, I suppose. Oh, if only I could find R2.
Well, that's our final clip. I hope you enjoyed them. I certainly did. I'll see you again in 30 years to talk about the next batch of sequels, unless they kill off Darth Maul. Goodbye.
Excuse me, but have you seen my friend R2-D2? We arranged to meet on this planet, and I think he might have got lost again. He has no concentration, you know. Hello? Hello? I don't think you understand a word I say.